Welcome to Diary of a Queen. I am joined by Tawney from West Virginia. Julie, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
I was just talking a little bit with Julie before we started, and that most of the interviews that I've had are with people that I have not talked to periodically, maybe off and on, but for the most part, not much, for maybe more than 20 years.
And
I know that's
me when I was a little one.
And it's been such a long time, but I've been following all of the things that you've gone through in your life's journey, which has been incredible. And I reach out every once in a while, but I think, that might even be the first lesson of today's podcast. Time goes by so quickly. Don't waste a second on not connecting with people, because you never know when you're not going to have that opportunity again. So I am thrilled to have you here because I have so many things I want to dig into. Are you ready to get started?
Let's do it.
I love it. So first thing I want to talk to you about is I know that you were a collegiate athlete. I would like to say the same for me. I spent my college years doing things very differently than physically training my body to be an athlete. What was college like for you, and how did that shape you professionally, personally?
Well, yeah, so I ran track at West Virginia University. So it was a real honor to be able to be on a Division I collegiate team and a female athlete. I was a high jumper, and so a lot of my training was spent. I didn't have to run, nearly the amount that the runners had to. It was a lot of lifting weights, but it was a great experience. It taught me a lot about time management, honestly. I graduated with a degree, nearly a 4.0 in journalism and public relations, and minored in communications. But also held internships throughout the years and throughout the summers. So I focused a lot on making sure that I was securing my future, as well as securing, hoping to do the best that I could as a college athlete. It was tough sometimes. The thing people don't totally realize about track is in college, you have an indoor and an outdoor season. So indoor starts early and goes through the winter time, and then outdoor starts in the spring and goes, through later spring into early summer. So it's a very long season, which means all of your fun and all of the things that you do, typically during college, that gets curbed a little. Not to say I didn't have my fair share of fun at WVU. I did. But it certainly taught me when and how to do the right things and, celebrate after the meets, not before.
I mean, I can't imagine. So as a track and field person, is that something that you get a scholarship for? Did you have a scholarship to go to college?
I did receive some money toward my education. It helped pay for books and things like that. Some people do end up coming on full rides. It just depends on, your level of, how good you are and those types of things. So I was fortunate enough to be asked to come and receive some. So it was great for me.
After college, did you start your career immediately?
Sort of. So after college, I moved to Seattle with a boy, and he was drafted to play football there, and we had been together in college, so we moved, and I did start working for a firm focused directly on what I did in my degree. So it was a PR firm. So I had my own real clients and those types of things. I was not there a very long time. I think I was there for 3 months or so, and quickly learned that was not going to work out. So country roads brought me home to West Virginia, and I started my career I worked in higher education, and I did career services, but also branding and marketing for a group of junior colleges across West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. So it was an interesting start to my career because it was not really what I had planned on doing at all. But it certainly, I found that career at the right time because it was right when I, came home from, obviously not the best of terms coming home from a breakup, but it set me up. I was there for a long time before I ended up, I had a baby and life changed, and I had some new career paths kind of open up, which led me to what I do now. I did some work. I was the chief operations officer at a nonprofit organization that focuses on women's health and reproductive health care. And that led me to what I do now, which is the government relations director for the American Heart Association.
And I think it's so incredible. So one of the things that I've loved watching your life, even just through social media, is how much you do lobbying for all kinds of different things in a government situation. And I think the thing that I want to know the most is how that is being a woman. I know in some instances you were lobbying for women's rights, but I know in some instances it was for other stuff. So what's it like on Capitol Hill? What was that experience like? Because I can't imagine being there. First off, it's hard and it's a lot of pressure, but then being a woman as well.
Yeah. So take a look at any legislature, state or local. It's a lot of men. It's a lot of older men. So it was a learning curve for sure. I don't think I really knew what to expect when I got in. I just turned 30. I remember I accepted that job when I turned 30 years old, and they were like, you would be really great to go work on some of these issues at the Capitol. Lobbying is a big part of what we do. And I was like, I've never really been political at all. I can vote. That was about the extent of my expertise on the subject. So it was a big learning curve to learn more about the entire process. And I really credit that job. It was a very hard job to do in West Virginia. We are a very conservative state. So, coming in as a lobbyist that worked predominantly on more left-leaning issues and getting pulled in some different directions was not always easy. You got your butt kicked a lot and drank a lot of wine to ease that away. But it helped mold my lobbying skills because I ended up passing really great policy on some levels. I got to work on access to birth control. I got to work on expanding Medicaid for people who are pregnant who don't have health insurance. How can we make sure that they have insurance so they can get prenatal care? Those are the things I got to work on that actually really meant so much. So I knew if I could do this job and pass things and build relationships at that level, that if I was able to kind of move into something a little more neutral, if you will, it would be a better fit for me. So when I transitioned into the Heart Association, it's been just an easy transition. And, we still work on heart issues. And not to say that, I had a bill die last year. Everybody says, Heart Association, that should be easy. You should get whatever you want. Well, that's not true either because healthcare costs money. So it just kind of, it did just fold into it. But being a woman in it is challenging. So I met my fiance as a lobbyist, and he used to crack up because I wear sky high heels all the time because I like to be on their level. I like to look them in the eye when I'm talking to them. I don't want to go, if I went in flats, I would be like talking up to them. I'm like, no, I need to be on their level. And it doesn't bother me to go in heels and dresses and look to the nines because I know that that's a way to stand out, a way to get meetings accepted. So he cracked up the first time I ever took my shoes off and I dropped down. He was like, oh my gosh. It's like, surprise.
Well, I think something that's so funny of what I know about you and your fiance, and certainly without being too political, but am I right in saying that you guys are not always necessarily aligned in your beliefs politically? And now you're getting married, right? So this has been the last 2 years. We've seen families and marriages and all kinds of things dissolve because politics have gotten in the way, especially when it's in opposition. How do you and your fiance deal with that?
So honestly, we did meet while we lobbied very opposite issues. So, he's on one side, I was very much on the other. We were not necessarily against one another, but we were certainly on opposite sides. And what I will say is we both, while we work in politics and we certainly have very strong beliefs about certain things, we are also both realistic people, and we are people who understand that the middle ground and the common ground is where we can actually work to effectively make change. So there's nothing about the two of us that really that we would ever, really argue over too. I mean, there've been a couple of things and I'm like, wait a minute, what? But that's to be said for anyone, but our dinner tables are not filled with politics talk. Our dates aren't, we'll talk about elections and what we're doing and things like that. But our signature line to everyone is we stay in our lane. So don't come to me asking for something for him. Don't come to him asking for something for me. We stay in our lane, and we, people are letting politics destroy families, friendships, lives. Even, you're watching people who attacked the Capitol building. Social media and the media itself has given people such a platform where it's not even, it doesn't even feel like it has to be you anymore portraying who this person is. And I think that bleeds over into people's real lives, and they feel like they can just cut people out, and it takes that value of family and friendship away when it comes to politics. And if someone decides that that's how they want to live, that's absolutely their prerogative, but that's not how we live our lives.
And I think no matter how you fall politically, something that you said is paramount for everybody. And that's just, meeting in the middle.
Yeah.
That's the easiest thing to do, is meet in the middle. And I think to always kind of keep your eyes and ears open, right? You never know where you're going to learn something great from. The whole adage of two ears, two eyes, one mouth. We should probably all, take part in that. And again, no matter where you fall, there's, I think, always something to take away. And the easiest thing to do is to meet in the middle and to have grace, right?
Right.
Yeah, when you have grace, it's just so much easier to be able to meet in the middle. I want to talk about your daughter, your beautiful daughter. Another thing that I know about you, and this is something I just found out recently because you had said something about Remy, is that you suffered with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis as a child. And now your daughter has the same thing. Yeah. So obviously as an athlete, that must have been difficult. And I don't know too much about it, but I'd love for you to describe how you found out, what it feels like, certainly being a parent with a child that has it as well, and how that takes you into the future, how life changes when you're diagnosed with something like that. Tell me about that.
Sure. So my arthritis was actually not diagnosed until I was in college. I suddenly started having a lot of pain in different joints, and we really couldn't figure out what was going on. At one point, they had me on crutches because they thought I sprained my ankle. The nice thing was I did have athletic trainers because I was running track at the time, but we just couldn't quite figure out what was wrong. And I ended up, it was right before my 22nd birthday. I think it was my 22nd birthday. They got me into, it was nearly impossible to get into a provider, a healthcare provider. We had gotten into one in Charleston, West Virginia, and it was not great. So we knew we needed to go to a more specialized system because mine was not showing up in the blood work. So they knew something was wrong that was inflammatory, but it wasn't showing up in blood work. So they just kind of left me in pain. I remember nights crawling to the bathroom in the night because it was in my knee so bad. So we ended up at Pittsburgh and at the university, and we met with an incredible team of doctors. I remember both my parents came, and it was like my birthday time. So it was kind of nice because my parents came to visit and I got all the birthday treats. But a long day at the hospital, and it was actually a clinical diagnosis of arthritis. It was something called palindromic rheumatism. Now, as I've gotten older, this has started showing up in blood work and then ended up going into full-blown rheumatoid arthritis. But I've been on medicine since I was 22 years old that has kept it relatively controlled. Now, the fun part, Remy, my little girl, when you have, so arthritis is an autoimmune disease. Typically when you get pregnant, those symptoms, for some reason, whatever it is with pregnancy, those symptoms tend to go away. But for some reason with mine, it didn't. So I had to go off of all of my medicine.
Okay.
And then my symptoms didn't go away. So I spent much of my first trimester in bed, miserable because I was in so much pain. But my second trimester, I was able to go back on one of them that was safe for pregnancy, and ended up feeling much better. But I had Remy, went back on medicine, and have been just fine. And then when she was almost 2, she fell down outside playing and hurt her knee. And it was, she was kind of limping. So, we're first-time parents. We completely freak out and take her to the doctor. And they end up doing some x-rays and checking it because it was swollen and red. And she was, their little hands wanting up to be held. And she was normally so active. So we knew it was hurting. We ended up going to a specialist in another part of West Virginia who did an MRI on her, which was awful to have your baby taken from you to go do their MRI. And with her, it didn't show there wasn't anything broken. There wasn't anything. Well, they put her in a cast from her little foot to her thigh. And this was the day before we left for vacation. That like really nails the coffin of what just the entire process of this. So she had that cast on for, I think, a month or 6 weeks, and, came back, and it was, they took it off and still in pain. Then she couldn't walk because it was weak from where they haven't moved it. And we went through this for several weeks and maybe months. And finally we went back, and I said, I want you to send me to a specialist for arthritis. I don't care. I have it. I know it's not hereditary, but I know these signs. It's red. It's hot. I want her. I finally had to just absolutely put my foot down because I knew what it was. I know what it is. I've had it. So we went to Cincinnati Children's Hospital, which was the most outstanding experience I've ever seen in healthcare. Immediately diagnosed her, immediately started a treatment plan. We did have to give her injections every week, which was awful. Giving your own baby an injection is not something that's very much fun. But she is in remission and has been for several years. And I have been, monitored on medicine. I've had to stay on mine. I had to go on a stronger medicine later in life. So there won't be any more babies for me. But that's okay. I feel like I really hit perfection with the first one anyway. So we're good. We don't need any more babies.
So you're getting ready to be married in very soon, right? In in just a couple days. And I know planning a wedding is so crazy. For you, I think something that's so great and I've really enjoyed, I would love to actually be able to meet your fiance one day. I love watching how he is with your daughter. And you hear people talk about blended families, and we make it sometimes look easier. If any of the podcasts so far, you know that we as women like to wear masks sometimes. We go through difficult things. We go through, life and death and births and divorces and all kinds of things. And we try to make it as easy as possible. How was the transition with Remy and your fiance? And I think this is important to bring up because, it's a blended family. You've got new in-laws, people that used to be your in-laws, new grandparents, old grandparents. It's a lot to bring everybody together. How was the transition then leading up to getting married?
So I have to say, first and foremost, that my ex-husband and I have done this. We're like the ones you read about that are like, how are they doing that so well for co-parenting?
That's amazing.
Our divorce was not messy. It was just simply the love was not there. We were, as roommates living together, trying to raise a baby. And I finally hit a point with that of, you hit a point where you're like, do I stay in this for the kids? Or I hit a point where I thought, do I want my baby to think this is love and marriage? Mm. And the more that those issues and things, continued to happen, it was just not, it wasn't what I wanted my baby to think love and marriage was. So, we separated, and it was, like I said, it was just never messy. Both of us put her first, and there are things that are hard with it, right? There's hard things. I mean, you have a baby together and you're trying to figure out life, right? But, of course there are times that you're like, oh, I miss the routine. I wish I would have been able to be there for that or different things. But, it was not easy, but it also was it was the right thing to do. Remy was 3 years old. So, I wanted to do it then as opposed to waiting until she was old enough that it was really going to affect her more. So we ended up, we separated, and I met Art through lobbying. And when I met him, it was just a connection that, we both work in the same field. We kind of got it. He's also divorced, has 2 boys. He is about 10 years older than me. So his sons are 18 and 21 now. I made him start all the way over, but, there was just something that kind of clicked, and it was easy to kind of talk to him through everything I was going, just kind of that type of stuff, just having a baby and different things. And we ended up just, truthfully just falling in love. And I'll never forget the first time he met Remy. We took her, he has a tattoo on his arm, and we took her to Chuck E. Cheese because we were like, okay, if we'll go do something like have pizza and play games and whatever. We were playing, whatever, shuffleboard or whatever that game is, or air hockey. And I saw her look down at his arm, and she was like, oh, I like your tattoo. And I was like, oh my gosh. But he just, he had kids. He has an ex-wife who, I think we all wish would have been a little more accepting, but he had been divorced for 13 years. He understood what it was like to be a dad who had been divorced. So he has been very cautious about my ex-husband's feelings, making sure that he doesn't overstep, making sure that, Remy is the center, that being understanding that my ex-husband and I do communicate. I mean, we coach a softball team together. We, sometimes there's confusion over whether or not we're even divorced. It's just, we will never let the fact that we didn't work out affect our little girl. And I watch people, I watch friends who aren't as fortunate to have a divorce story like that. And most people don't. And I do realize how lucky I am, but it has been putting our own feelings aside and doing what's best for her. We're not going to work out. We get it. But we can certainly do what's best for her and give her all the love in the world. And when I come home and, Art travels a lot. He's a lobbyist as well. He covers more than one state. When he comes in and I watch Remy run through the house and leap in his arms, or if he's sitting on the chair and she goes over and plops down in his lap, or he comes in and saw something at the store she would like and brings it home. Those are the moments I know everything's going to be okay. He loves her. It's the moments that his sons at 21 and 18 message me of, you know, one of them was having mimosas and was like, oh, I feel like I'm with my almost mom, like joking around. But it's, you know, it's moments like that you realize it's all going to be okay. You love their kids as your own. You respect boundaries and respect the co-parenting, and you do what's best for your kids.
And I think, you know, exactly what you talked about for politics, meeting in the middle, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I think just because you are who you are as a person, that you've learned in your professional life, that meeting in the middle, you've attracted a person that meets in the middle. And that's probably why you've gotten in the situation where it works out. Again, not everything is going to be amazing. There are always challenges in life, but having that mindset of, we need to put Remy first. We need to put your fiance's children first as well. And that this is a blended family, and that there's a way that you can do that and have it work harmoniously. So leading into wedding, 10 days away.
Yes.
Are you ready? Are you done with everything?
I am done with everything except for, so we're getting married in Mexico. So we actually have our legal ceremony in Charleston, West Virginia, on the Capitol steps where we met. That's first. So we're going to do that next Saturday, and then we leave for Mexico. So my Charleston dress is ready. My Cancun dress is still getting some final work done to it. So I go back to Pittsburgh on Friday to do the final fitting and pick that up. So other than that, we're pretty much good to go. I mean, at the end of the day, we have 45 of our most wonderful friends and family coming to Mexico. And I am the second time getting married. The first time, everything was about the wedding. And I think that that's probably, looking back, where you lose sight of you're marrying a person that you're going to spend your life with. It's not just the wedding and everything's fun forever. So the first time I remember, just everything was about the wedding. And this time it's just, I get to marry you. And then we're going to just get to have our lives together. But like, this is so much fun because we get to go spend a weekend with our friends and family celebrating. Remy's my maid of honor, and his boys are his best men. And so we're not forcing our friends into bridesmaid dresses or anything. They all are very thankful. But it's just, I can't wait to just go have these moments with our friends and family. My mom and I have done a lot together, traveling back and forth for my dress and those types of things. We've always been so close, but it's these things that I know that will mean a lot to me one day, that I had all of this extra time with her doing these things. So I hope that Remy wants those extra days with me too.
She will. One of the greatest pieces of, I don't know if it's necessarily advice, but something somebody had told me. I'm coming up on, or I just came up on 15 years of marriage, which is so crazy because it goes so quickly. But what is things that I was told right before I was getting ready to walk down the aisle is the coolest thing about a wedding is there are people there from all the different stages of your life. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And what tends to happen is the people tend to sit in the decades of your life. And it was totally true for me.
So funny.
My college friends sat together. My friends from, my schooling when I was a smaller kid, high school and whatnot, they sat together. And then the people that were there from the beginning. But there are people in that room that held you as a baby. And now they're here watching you, through this great rite of passage. I just think that that's such an amazing thing. So my advice to you is, as you are getting ready to get married, is to look out onto the crowd of people. For you, it's 45 people, and just realize that all of those people are all a part of the fabric of your life. And how cool is that that they're all there to celebrate you and with you and your union. And I just think you're going to have the best time. Julie, thank you so much for spending time with me today. I know that there are so many things that we talked about in the last little bit that somebody is going to be able to attach to and take it into their own life and hopefully help them in some way. Thank you very much for spending time with me.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for doing this. I think it's so cool to know that you are opening a space where women are going to be able to connect with one another. And in a world where we are pulled in a lot of different directions, and like you said earlier, we're constantly wearing a mask and putting on a happy face, how nice is it to know that we can just be real sometimes? So thank you for this and this idea. I'm excited to watch the success of it in the future.
Well, and I'd like to tell everybody, if they like this video, go ahead and let us know. Like it, comment on it. And of course, if you'd like to know about more podcasts coming up in the future, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel and you'll get notifications. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for being with Diary of a Queen.